His hand was braced hard against the wall, streaked with pale grey paint, trembling as he pressed deeper into me. My back was slick against the unfinished trim. His breath came hot, desperate against my neck. I grabbed at his coveralls, fingers slipping on the fabric, pulling him closer, harder. We didn't say anything, just breathed me, gasping him, gritting through it, our bodies moving in a rhythm that wasn't patient, wasn't planned, just pure frantic need. The hallway reeked of fresh paint and sweat. I could feel the roller tray digging into the back of my calf where he'd kicked it aside. A part of me wanted to cry out to push him back, but I didn't. I arched, took every inch of him until his chest collapsed against mine, his hips frozen deep inside, his hand shaking as it gripped the edge of the wall behind my head. And then voices, muffled, somewhere near the front of the house. We both stopped breathing. He didn't pull out. I never imagined I'd cross this line. Not like this. Not with him. I'm 37, married to a man who still calls me babe out of habit, but hasn't touched my lower back in years. We have 2 kids, a quiet house in the suburbs, and a mortgage we refinanced last spring. Everything looks perfect if you just squint past the silence. But then he came. Travis. My husband hired him from a friend's contracting business. Said he could use a younger guy to repaint the hallway ceiling to baseboard. Travis showed up that first Monday with a faded hoodie sunburn on the back of his neck and paint flecks already crusted into his jeans. 25 maybe, broad shoulders, too familiar a smile. I thought it would just be him and the walls. That was 3 weeks ago. The first time it was the paint fumes that made me dizzy. That's what I told myself. The way he reached up the ladder and his shirt rode up, showing the hard slant of his waist. The way his brush strokes slowed when I passed too close. The day he bent down to cover a scuff near the baseboard, and I realized he hadn't been wearing gloves for days. He just wanted to leave prints. I should have walked away, but instead I offered him lemonade, and when he wiped the sweat from his neck with the hem of his shirt and looked at me, I didn't look away. We crossed the line 3 days later. A thunderstorm had knocked out the power, and I walked the hallway with a flashlight. He was still here, said he had 1 coat left and didn't want to leave it undone. We didn't speak. We didn't plan it. I stood in the doorway watching him kneel by the stairwell. When he stood, I was already there. Our mouths crashed together like we were drowning and didn't care what filled our lungs. It wasn't love. It wasn't even tenderness. It was permission to feel. Now, every time my husband texts that he's heading to the gym or late at work, I glance toward the hall, and when Travis is here, I feel my body coil without thinking. Like I've already said yes before we've even touched. It's wrong. What would you do if the one thing that made you feel alive was also the secret that could destroy your life? Today, when he pushed too deep and I stayed silent, it wasn't because I didn't feel guilt. It was because I heard the door open, and I didn't stop. I couldn't. Someone had said my name, but I didn't answer. If you've ever felt the thrill of doing something you shouldn't, and the fear of getting caught, you're not alone. Please like and subscribe. The longer you stay, the more stories like this will find the people who need them. Let's begin. In the light of day, my life doesn't look like the kind of life that leaves space for secrets. I wake up at 6:10 every morning at a 6:00, not 6:15. It's always 6 to 10, because that gives me just enough time to breathe before the alarm goes off again, and I start packing the kids' lunches, checking their backpacks, and trying to remember if today's the day Olivia needs gym shoes. My husband, Rick, is usually still half asleep when I bring him his coffee. Black 2 sugars. We've been together 16 years. We don't fight. We don't kiss unless we're in public or around his parents. We hug the way siblings might, polite practiced. The house is clean if a little too quiet. Everything runs on a system. We're that couple in our neighborhood, dependable, always waving at neighbors, always showing up for soccer games and community meetings. No one would suspect. The day we hired Travis, it was Rick's idea. Local guy just finished up a deck down the block. Said he's in between gigs. I told him we needed this hallway done before your mom comes to visit. I remember nodding, flipping through my calendar, already listing out what needed to be done. Travis showed up with a paint-splattered van and hands that looked too young to be calloused the way they were. He had a cocky sort of ease, like someone who knew women looked at him, but didn't act like it mattered. The first week he barely spoke to me, just worked. Came in the morning, left mid-afternoon. Took his lunch in his van. I watched him from the kitchen once through the archway that framed the hallway like a stage. He peeled his shirt off and wiped his neck, then stood back to study the wall like it had said something to him. He had these quiet hands, firm but precise. The way he held a brush was the same way I imagined he'd touch skin, intentional. Still, I didn't cross any line. Not yet. It was the Thursday after that when something shifted. Olivia had a meltdown at breakfast, tears cereal all over the floor, and I'd barely managed to get both kids in the car and off to school before I came back to the house and just leaned against the door, eyes closed. That's when I felt him, not touching me but near. He was standing at the edge of the hallway, holding a roller in one hand, just watching me with this look, not pity, not concern, just awareness. Like he saw something no one else bothered to. "You okay?" he asked. I opened my eyes too fast. "Yeah, just kids." He nodded, then knelt and started pouring paint, but he didn't look away. From that moment, the quiet between us felt different. Not just polite, heavy. Later that afternoon, I walked past him and brushed against his arm. I said it was an accident, but I felt the breath hitch in my chest. His skin was warm. He didn't move. I went to the laundry room and closed the door, heart pounding. What was I doing? Nothing had happened, but I could already feel something unfurling in my body that hadn't stirred in years, want. The kind that hummed low and wrong, the kind I'd buried under schedules and school forms and dishwasher loads. The next day, Rick left early for a conference call. Travis arrived 10 minutes later. I was still in a tank top and loose shorts. I didn't change. We didn't speak much, but I started offering him cold drinks, wiping paint off the floor next to him instead of later. I lingered in the doorway longer. One afternoon I stood behind him while he painted the trim near the stairs. He looked over his shoulder, then down at my hand. It had moved too close to his back, grazing his shirt. He didn't flinch. Neither did I. When I turned to go, he whispered, "You're playing with fire." I paused. Maybe I am. He didn't stop me. That weekend, Rick and I went to a couple's dinner. I wore a new blouse, something soft and red. He said I looked nice, but didn't touch me all night. That same night, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "You wore red today." No name, no emoji, just those 4 words. My heart nearly stopped. I deleted it, but the pulse between my thighs wouldn't go away. The next Monday, I found him in the hallway, crouched and focused earphones in. He didn't see me at first. I watched the muscles in his forearms flex, the paint rolling smooth across the wall. Then he looked up, and we both stopped pretending. He stood, took 2 steps toward me. I could feel the heat from his body. "If I kiss you right now," he whispered, "you won't stop me, will you?" I swallowed. No, he didn't. Not that day. But we both knew it was already too late. We hadn't touched, but the secrecy had already begun. We locked the doors now. We spoke less, but looked more. We both knew how thin the walls were, and neither of us cared. It was a Tuesday morning when I left the hallway light on, a little longer than I should have. I'd been watching him from the corner of the kitchen, pretending to scroll through emails. Travis had his shirt off again, not showing off, just working like he always did, body moving in that slow, efficient way. He didn't know I was watching. Or maybe he did. I was supposed to be prepping dinner, early crock-pot something, but I kept pausing, letting the silence stretch too long. My body felt different every time he was near, like I was wearing something sheer and he could see every thought I wasn't saying. He walked past me to grab something from the supply bin near the back door. He didn't touch me, didn't even look at me. But as he came back through, his hand brushed mine, just barely. The backs of our fingers, like an accident. But it wasn't. I froze. So did he. We didn't say anything. It was mid-afternoon when he passed behind me again this time, whispering low, just under breath. "Tell me to stop." I should have. I didn't. Instead, I turned my head, met his eyes for half a second, and stepped out of the room. Every day after that, the tension only got worse. He started showing up 10 minutes early. I'd unlock the door before Rick left, heart racing, palms sweating. Sometimes we didn't even speak, just exchanged glances, like we were living a dream we couldn't wake up from. We never kissed again after that first time in the storm. But the way he looked at me, steady, certain it felt like he already had his hands on me. I started keeping my phone close. I began sleeping in loose t-shirts again, the kind I used to wear when I still cared if Rick touched me. I started walking barefoot in the house, just to feel the floor more. Everything began to feel sharper, louder. At night, I'd lay awake while Rick snored gently beside me, my body aching with the memory of Travis's voice in my ear. "Tell me to stop." I didn't sleep much anymore. One afternoon, as I was wiping down the counter, Olivia burst through the front door. Early school had been dismissed unexpectedly because of a power outage. I hadn't heard the car. Travis was in the hallway painting the top trim with the stepladder pulled halfway into the entryway. His shirt was off again. I rushed toward him before she saw, whispering loud and panicked, "Upstairs. Now." He stared at me for a beat long enough to make my breath catch, then grabbed his shirt and ducked silently into the spare room. I met Olivia halfway down the hall, my voice an octave too high. "Hey, baby. What are you doing home?" She was already dropping her backpack, complaining about missing art class. I steered her into the kitchen with juice and crackers, forcing my hands to stop shaking. 10 minutes later, I heard Travis slip out the back door. That night I couldn't eat. Rick asked if I was coming down with something. I said I was tired. The next morning, Travis didn't come. No call, no text. At first I felt relief, like maybe this was it. Maybe he'd done the right thing for both of us. But by noon, my chest was tight, like I'd been holding a breath too long. I kept checking the window like I was waiting for a package that had been delayed. He came the day after, late, almost noon. No explanation, just sat up quietly and started working. When I brought him water, I tried not to say anything, but I couldn't help it. "You can't do that." He didn't look at me. Do what disappear like that, without a word? He finally turned. I was trying to keep us from doing something worse. We already did. He let the silence sit between us. Then he said, "You looked scared." I was. He stepped closer. Still are. We didn't touch, but we were standing inches apart. I could feel his breath again. I hated how much I missed it. From then on, every encounter felt like we were climbing a tighter ledge. One morning, I forgot to lock the back door. Travis had me pinned between the stair rail and the wall, our lips barely apart, when Rick called from the garage. I shoved him back so hard we both nearly fell. "Jesus," Travis hissed, breathless. "Go!" I wiped my lips, heart hammering, while Travis slipped into the laundry room. Rick came in, keys in hand, talking about needing to find his golf shoes. I nodded, fake laughed, handed him coffee, prayed he wouldn't look too closely at my neck. He didn't. Travis left through the side gate that day. I started sleeping with a t-shirt under my pillow, one he'd left behind accidentally. I told myself I'd return it, but I never did. The closer we got to finishing the hallway, the more frantic everything became. It was like we were racing the end of whatever this was. Every near miss, every almost kiss, every whispered word. It all felt like one more match, striking close to a gas leak. It wasn't going to hold, and part of me didn't want it to. It started with jealousy. Travis showed up that morning with a girl in his van, blonde, laughing loud. I heard her voice through the screen door before I even saw them. She handed him a coffee, waved at him like she'd been doing it for years. I ducked into the hallway before he could catch my face. He worked quietly that day. Didn't say much, didn't linger, kept his shirt on. I kept pretending it didn't matter, that the tightening in my throat was just nerves, not some twisted ache of possession. Around 2, I snapped. I walked into the hallway and stood in front of his ladder. He was edging the ceiling line. Didn't even glance down. "You bring her here a lot?" I asked. My voice sounded smaller than I wanted it to. He stopped. Took just a second too long to answer. "She's no one." Seemed like someone. He climbed down slow and deliberate. "You jealous, no? You sound jealous." "I'm not." We stood in silence. The air smelled like paint and heat, the kind that clings to your skin when you've been lying to yourself too long. Then I said it. "I don't want to be forgotten the second this hallway's finished." He looked at me like I'd just confessed something deeper than a crime. His jaw flexed. His hands curled at his sides. "You won't be. Prove it." It didn't take long. He grabbed me, not rough, not fast, just sure. His mouth found mine before I could say another word, and I didn't care. My hands were already in his shirt, yanking the collar fingers trembling against his chest. We backed into the alcove behind the stairs, the spot no one ever looked, where the paint hadn't dried and the scent was thick and dizzying. I pressed into him, my back hitting the wall, heart hammering so loud I couldn't hear anything else. He tugged my shorts down with one hand, the other sliding around my neck, not choking, just holding, possessing, grounding. My legs shook. "Wait," I breathed. "What if I locked the door?" He whispered into my jaw. "Tell me to stop." I didn't. He pushed in slow hard. Deep. My head hit the drywall. I grabbed his shirt in both fists, mouth open but silent, because if I said anything, if I made a sound, it would become real. And we couldn't be real. He moved like he'd been waiting for this all week. I held onto his waist, pressed my lips to his shoulder to keep from crying out. The heat between us built fast, too reckless. My body arched toward him, nerves on fire. We didn't speak. We didn't dare. His hand gripped my thigh, and I clung tighter, afraid if I let go, everything would collapse. And just as it crested, a knock. 3 sharp taps on the front door. We froze. His breath caught. I clamped my hand over my mouth. He was still inside me. Another knock, then my husband's voice. "Babe, you here?" Travis didn't move. I could feel his whole body tense. His jaw brushed my temple. "I thought you said he had meetings today." I did. I scrambled off him, pulling my shorts up my shirt down. My hands were shaking. He backed into the far corner. Silent eyes, wide chest rising hard. I darted to the front, barely catching my breath as I swung the door open. Rick stood there, holding a paper bag. "Forgot my lunch." I laughed too loud. "You scared me. Everything okay?" His eyes flicked past me into the house. "Yeah, just kids' laundry." "Travis is still here." "Cool." "Hey, can he patch that crack by the stairs before he finishes?" "Sure," I said. "I'll tell him." He stepped forward, kissed my cheek, dry and habitual, and walked back to the car. I didn't close the door until he pulled away. Then I collapsed against it. Back in the hallway, Travis hadn't moved. I walked to him slow, still trembling. That was too close. He nodded. "I should stop this," I whispered. "I know." But when he reached for me again, I didn't pull away. I let him finish what we'd started, breathless and raw. Quieter this time, careful not to make a sound. Afterward, I stood alone in the laundry room, staring at my reflection in the dryer door. My lips were swollen. My legs were still shaking. I didn't feel victorious. I felt like I was falling. And the scariest part, I didn't want to catch myself. The next morning, I flinched when Rick reached over me to grab a coffee mug. He didn't say anything, just brushed my shoulder gently, like always, but my whole body stiffened. I felt like the weight of what I'd done was stamped onto my skin, like it was visible. I spent the day checking mirrors, adjusting my shirt collar, tugging my sleeves down, like maybe something on me still smelled like him, like paint, like sweat, like guilt. When Travis texted that night, "You good?" I stared at it for a long time before replying. "You shouldn't text me." He didn't write back. I waited anyway. The next day, he didn't show. I told Rick he must have gotten another job. Said it like it didn't sting, like it didn't confirm what I already feared, that it was ending, and it meant nothing to him. But then I found his tape measure on the dryer, the one with the frayed end and initials scratched into the plastic TM. He'd left it behind, on purpose. And now I was the one haunted. Every time the front door creaked, I held my breath. Every time Rick called my name from the other room, I felt the blood drain from my face. He wasn't acting suspicious, but that was worse somehow, because I was. One afternoon while folding laundry, I found a pair of my underwear missing, not misplaced, gone. I tore the room apart looking for it, heart-pounding eyes darting to the window in case someone was watching. Had I left it where Travis could have seen or taken no, that was impossible. Right. Still the unease clung to me like damp air. At dinner, Rick asked why I kept checking my phone. I lied and said Olivia had a group project I was helping with. That night, I turned my phone face down on the nightstand and left it there. But I didn't sleep. The dreams were fevered paint dripping down walls, hands gripping me in the dark, the doorknob turning just as I reached climax. I woke up, drenched in sweat. The next morning, I told myself I had to end it. Not because I stopped wanting him, but because the fear had become too real. I was too jumpy, too reckless. I called his number, straight to voicemail. I drove past the house he was working on 2 streets over. His van was parked outside, half-open music playing low. He saw me, didn't wave, just stared. I parked anyway, walked to him, said nothing. He stepped out, wiping his hands, face unreadable. "We need to stop," I said. "I know." We didn't move. Then he said, "But you don't want to." I looked away. "It's not about want." His voice was quiet. "So what is it?" my husband's starting to notice. He took a breath. "And if he finds out I didn't answer, I didn't have one." He stepped closer. "You think I don't feel it too? The panic, the guilt, I do. But I also feel something else." "What you?" That broke me. I stepped back. "Don't." He didn't follow. "Just let me walk." I went home, peeled my clothes off, sat in the shower until the water turned cold. That night, Rick asked if I was okay. I nodded. He kissed my forehead and rolled over. I stared at the ceiling and waited for the phone to buzz. It didn't. But the next day, it did. A single word. Home. My throat went dry. My fingers hovered over the screen. I didn't reply. But I didn't delete it either. Every time the phone buzzes, I think it's the end. But I still check it anyway. It wasn't Rick who found out. It was worse. It was my sister. She showed up unannounced on a Thursday, said she was in the area, thought she'd surprise me with coffee and catch up. I was in the kitchen, half distracted, wearing a t-shirt that wasn't mine. His shirt. Travis's old work shirt, soft, thin, frayed at the collar. I told myself I'd sleep in it just one more time. I hadn't realized I was still wearing it when I opened the door. "Nice shirt," she smirked, brushing past me. "Vintage boyfriend look." I laughed it off, changed the subject. But something in her eyes changed when she hugged me goodbye. Too quiet, too sharp. That night she texted me, "Hey, this is probably nothing, but is something going on? You feel different lately." I stared at the message for 15 minutes, typed out a lie, deleted it. Then I left it on read. A week later, she stopped by again, said she was worried, that Rick had mentioned I'd been jumpy, that the kids said I was always on my phone now. I denied everything, laughed too loud, talked too fast. That's when she dropped it. I saw him leave last month. I froze. Who, the painter guy? Travis. Her voice was quiet, sharp. I was driving by. You were standing at the door in shorts and no shoes. He was behind you. Too close. I felt the air leave my lungs. She waited, didn't push, just watched me fall apart without lifting a finger. I didn't confirm it, didn't have to. She nodded once and said, "You need to end it, before someone else sees." I nodded too, but I didn't move. She never brought it up again, but the way she looked at me had changed, like she pitied me, like she knew I wasn't who she thought I was, and maybe I wasn't. I tried to cut it off after that. Truly. I didn't respond to his messages. I deleted his contact. I told Rick I wanted to repaint the hallway myself, give it a different color, something warmer. But every time I walked down that corridor, I remembered the sound of his breath in my ear, the feel of his hands on my hips, the look in his eyes when he pushed too deep, and I didn't tell him to stop. I missed it. Him. The next time he messaged, it was short. "I'm at the park. You coming?" I didn't respond. I put the phone in the drawer, but at midnight I still checked it. He hadn't followed up. The silence hurt more than I expected. Then one morning, Rick came in holding my phone. "Who's Travis?" The question was calm. Too calm. "What, you got a text?" Didn't have a name. But I remember the painter's name was Travis. Says, "Can't stop thinking about the hallway." He handed the phone to me. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. "Tell me it's not what I think," he said. I tried. I really did. But the words wouldn't form. He didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just stood there. Quiet. And then he left. I haven't seen Travis since. I don't know if Rick will ever forgive me. The kids still ask why Daddy's sleeping at Grandma's. I say he's helping her fix the gutters, but they're not stupid. Neither am I. We were careful. We thought we were invisible, but secrets don't stay secrets forever, and I don't know what scares me more, losing him or being found out.